Welcome everyone to Everyday Passions, Heart-Centered Conversations. Each week it's my delight to introduce you to a special guest who shares his or her passion in business and sometimes in life, and sometimes they're combined. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Shara Lewis-Campbell. Before I introduce Shara, I'll just tell you that if you and I have not met before, I am Yvonne A. Jones of 50andwisercoaching.com and the 50 and Wiser community on Facebook. Now, Shara Lewis-Campbell, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Shara is the co-founder of Beauty and the Beast Publishing. It's a book publishing and media company. Shara has served within the writing industry almost 30 years, honing her craft, and she has published 60 aspiring authors so far, in addition to 7 of her own book titles. Wow, Shara, that's very impressive.
Thank you.
With that, would you please share with us some personal information or just something so we get to know you better?
Yeah, sure. I think that something personal I'd like to share is something that unless you'd read probably my first 2 books, you probably wouldn't know. But during the period of 2016 to 2020, I'd spent much of my time living in Australia. So that's something personal that not many people would know unless you knew me or you had read my first 2 books.
Great. Anything else you want to share with us? Having in Australia, I'm sure you have a lot you can share because right now you live in the UK. So yes. Is that, excuse me, should I understand that once after 2016 you returned to the UK and you've been there since?
Yeah. So I've been living in the UK because that's where I'm born and bred anyway. And then I had the opportunity back in 2016 to travel to Australia. And I came back soon after that visit and then I went back again and I was there till 2020. So just before actually midnight of the 1st of January 2020, I flew back in to London from Melbourne, Australia, because I had learnt that I was going to be a grandmother for the first time. So I've been back ever since.
Well, congratulations. Grandmas reunite.
Yes. Best thing ever.
Lovely. So Shara, what is one of the things that you're truly passionate about in your business?
I would say the main thing that I'm truly passionate about is really being able to publish aspiring authors that are not typically from the industry. It would be the same sort of journey that I had. So I'd been writing for a very long time, but wasn't typically from the industry. So being able to do that and bring, as you mentioned, bring 60 new authors into the industry, that's really where my passion lies.
Now, you mentioned to me before that your mission is to create a concrete collective of authors into the industry. And you mentioned something that I found a little intriguing. You said, who write from a place of authenticity and integrity. Well, we hope that everyone does, but what makes this so unique?
I think that these days there is a tendency for writers to write from a place of safety because they are concerned about fear of ridicule and you know, and just a fear of getting any negative press, etc. But that is not what writing is about. You know, there are lots of, I would say, writers that write similar to other writers because they probably feel that that person has been successful in their writing, so therefore they're going to do a take on what they're doing. But that's not what the industry requires. What the industry requires is change. And how change comes about is through authentic writing and writing from a place of integrity. So therefore, you need to write about what you see, and what your experiences are so that we can learn from them. Writers have a way of being able to change the world that no other profession can do. And, it can change law, it can reduce crime, it can just make the world a better place within society. So why not write? That's the kind of writing that I'm interested in. People that write from a real place and have authentic stories to share that people can learn from. I mean, even the most fictional piece comes from a true idea. So I think the industry needs to be about that. And we, as writers, we not only have a responsibility, but we have a duty to ensure that we are writing factual information and that it is authentic, purely on the backs of those writers that have come before us, phenomenal writers, people I've mentioned before, like Nadine Gordimer is a great example of that. Somebody she was a white South African writer, and she's a Pulitzer Booker Prize winner as well of her time. And she was based in South Africa, and she took the decision to write authentically about apartheid and things like that. And based on that, she was able to create change, within her own country. And that's the kind of writing that we need to see more of.
Excellent. You use the phrase that I jotted here, fictional piece comes from a true idea. So from that, I'm taking that your publishing company, you deal with fiction and nonfiction. But even if it's fictional, what would you say to expand on this a little bit more, that even if it's fictional, even if you're telling your story, how can we make our story be more meaningful, that it comes from the place you mentioned before, integrity and authenticity?
Okay, so for me, I find that we can all write a good story, or we can all tell a good story, but sometimes what's really missing is the lesson, from that story. And I think that needs to be conveyed a lot. Whilst readers get caught up in the story, they're often looking to find solutions, to the stories or to the examples that are being presented. For instance, a good example is if you write a story that's based on a factual story, as I have done when I wrote my first two books. They were based on true events. So there is an element of it that may be fictional or not quite, as it were, for whatever reason, maybe because it worked well for the piece, or there was an element that I didn't want to share or was reluctant to share. And but what was important to me is how I was able to demonstrate how I overcame certain things. So I experienced some racism and, prejudice when I was in Australia. And for me, what was important was how I was able to overcome those obstacles. And I think that those are the things that is going to have a big bearing on the people that read those, because they'll be able to relate to those circumstances, or they can utilize those examples in their own lives for other circumstances that they may fit well into.
I love that, because what you're basically doing when you write in that way, and as far as I understand it, is that you're sharing your experiences, but you're also sharing the lessons that you learn, so that someone else who reads your story, who may have a similar experience, they may be able to perceive it a different way.
Exactly.
Maybe a different way from how they would have dealt with it. And it's like an aha, like, oh, this is what something like this happened to me too, but this is how she dealt with it, or the author dealt with it. So I really appreciate that.
That's
now,
right.
Shara, now, was there a particular point in your life? Because I know we had a conversation, and you have been writing for quite a while. Was there a particular point in your life or just an event that allowed you to recognize that this is where you really want to plant your stake? This is where it's a passion for you to write and to help others to get their message out into the world.
Yeah, sure. When for as far back as I can remember as a child, I've always had a passion for reading, and always enjoyed writing, and would often write short stories and so forth. And then as I got into what you probably described there as middle school, often I would, I was very strong. It was my strongest subject, English, and I did literature and language. And I remember whatever I wrote would always be often read out, by the tutor at the time, in an open forum, and I'd be recognised for my work. So as well as the fact that I had the interest and the passion for it, I feel that it was a talent that I was just innate within me. When I set up my business, Beauty and the Beast Publishing, prior to that, I had a smaller publishing company, just a one-man band, as it were. And then I didn't feel as if I didn't have a plan, but I didn't feel as if my writing was very purposeful at that time. And I was very keen to find that purpose. And since opening this company, Beauty and the Beast Publishing, I have been able to find that purpose is there. And I'm very passionate about, imparting my knowledge to other writers or aspiring writers, and sharing that experience with them. So yeah, that's when it really happened.
Great. Thank you for answering that. So you just said a moment ago that you're passionate about sharing your knowledge. So as far as you have got with your company, Beauty and the Beast Publishing, how would you say that your passion for writing and what you do as a publishing company, how has this impacted the lives of others? I know you have some great stories. Please share one of them with us.
Yeah, I would say that today it's been completely successful in the fact that 60 aspiring authors have come into the industry, as a result of the services that we offer. As well as that, we also have an academy as well, so that they're able to come in and even study with us and learn all the tricks of the trade. But what is, I would say, is probably more fulfilling for me is that 16 of those authors that I have mentioned come from challenging backgrounds. Mainly, they've either been incarcerated, or they're in halfway homes, or have been since released from prison. And they've all shown great strength within their writing, and they've all been involved within writing programs, and they've been able to change their lives as a result. So some have gone off and have utilized or their experience as becoming published authors and are doing that as a business, or some of them have taken on board the elements of publishing and are very much offering the same service that I'm offering, in their own demographic. So it's been great to see that happen. It tells me that I've got a very successful business model.
Yes, you have. And that's really transformational for the individuals, those 16 authors who were in a position that you could almost say sometimes they're ostracized from society, but their writing has been able to reestablish them into society. Right. And you just said that some of them have actually started their own publishing company. So that was, I would say, you have made a tremendous impact on the lives of those individuals.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
It's great. I mean, I've always wanted to know that my writing and my publishing and anything I do within the industry, is beneficial to somebody else. And so to be able to see that, I couldn't ask for a better legacy, to be honest.
Love that. And now we're almost out of time, but you mentioned a nonprofit that you're also involved with. Can you just share a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, sure. So in my spare time when I'm not doing this, my day job, I'm a huge supporter of social restorative justice. And as a result of that, I raise awareness and campaign for that under my non-profit organization, which is called The Shift.
I like that.
Thank you.
For sure. Okay. Thank you. Maybe we can have another discussion about that because
Yes,
that I think is a totally different entity from your book publishing
yes.
and writing. Yet it's sort of like an offshoot, right?
Yes, very much so. I find that the two do go very much hand in hand because we are currently living in that society,
Mhm.
which is very oppressed for certain demographics and groups. We need to see a more fair and equal society, and that's what's going to make the place a better place and create the change that we need to see.
Absolutely. I agree with you. So if we wanted to get in touch with you, Shara, how can we do this? How can people connect with you? Because there's so many people who have a story. And the saddest part about it is that many times they die with their story still inside of them. If someone wants to take a plunge or take a step in that direction of getting their story out into the world, how can they connect with you?
I would say that the best port of call would be to contact me via the website, which is beautyandthebeastpublishing.net. And outside of that, we are available on all major social media platforms. And so just type in Beauty and the Beast Publishing and you'll find us.
Okay, excellent. And I know you're very active on LinkedIn. So it's Beauty and the Beast
Yes.
Publishing.
Yep.
Awesome. In
LinkedIn
fact,
would be
that's
the main
very
one for us.
right. All right. So thank you so very much. Is there any parting words you'd have for the budding writer, the person who thinking, I would like to write a book one day. I would like to do something to get the world to know a little bit about who I am. What would you say to them? Where should they start?
But I would say that the best thing for them to do is to definitely make contact with us. That would probably be your best port of call. Outside of that, I would suggest um, that, you need to sort of show some sort of aptitude for writing. So find out what your niche is, what it is that you would like to write about, and actually just make a start. Just start writing. It doesn't have to be in any particular way, but just get pen to paper or, use your keyboard and just actually write. Nothing can be done without it. And write
Thank you. So
authentically. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So get started and write authentically. I love that. So Shara,
Yes.
thank you so very much for being here today. You've shared some wonderful gems. And for
Thank
those
you.
of you who are watching or listening, whether you're watching on YouTube, you're watching on Facebook or on LinkedIn, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, please reach out to Shara or to myself. I will pass on your questions to her. Thank you, Shara. And for
Thank you.
everyone, until next time, this is Yvonne A. Jones. Have a wonderful day.